This episode is being sponsored by the Next Level Living course, where you can gain clarity, direction, confidence, and take control of your life. Go to christyfexer.com/course for more information. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of All in the Name of Growth. I am so excited to have you here today, and also super excited to have on my special guest, Carrie Schmidt. She is a transformational life and business coach and also a new author, which is really exciting. She actually just launched her first book back on June 1st, and it is titled Behind the Screen. And I am just really excited to have you on today, Carrie. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Christy. I'm excited to be here. This is such a good conversation we're going to have.
Let's dive into what we're talking about today, because I'm really excited to get into this and have you share your wisdom with us. So what we are going to be talking about today for everybody that's listening is your unconscious behavior and reprogramming your mind. Mm-hmm. So let's just dive into the depth of unconscious versus conscious behavior, and even unconscious and conscious thoughts, because that's where it all starts, right? It all starts with those thoughts, and then it becomes behaviors. So what is really like the difference between the two of them, and how are our thoughts or whatever stored into those two different places? Like how, I mean, if it's unconscious, right? Like some people will say, well, if it's unconscious, how do I know, right, that it's there? How do I even address that? So let's kind of start at the very beginning, and like, what is the difference kind of between the two of them, and how do we like get information to each of them?
So you have to understand the difference between your conscious and subconscious mind. The subconscious mind operates our bodies 95% of the time. It keeps our blood pumping, our heart beating, us breathing. Our physical body is really an amazing machine. But we also have this computer in our head, which is our subconscious program. And this is something that is there to protect us and keep us safe, right? It's linked to our fight or flight nervous response. But what we don't realize, I would say as adults, is during childhood, we're in a download phase. Our brainwave frequency from 0 to 7 years old is in a theta brainwave frequency, which means it's basically just a download. Everything that you're seeing, viewing, experiencing is downloading into your subconscious mind, because its job is to store and retrieve. Okay. Now, fast forward 20 years, say you're 20 years old. Now you have 20 years of this program that has been storing and retrieving. Now, fast forward another 10 years. Now I'm 30 years old. Well, now I might exhibit some unconscious behaviors that have been linked to my childhood. And oftentimes there's childhood trauma. There's things that we experience and we have memories of that might not be the best programming. I like to call these faulty programs. Mm-hmm. And so we have these faulty programs installed in our supercomputer here that play in the back of our mind or on our screen, our lens of life. And sometimes those thoughts are not positive thoughts. In fact, we think most of the time, we think over 60,000 thoughts on a daily basis. 80% of those are negative. 95% of those are from the past. Well, why is 95% from the past? Because your subconscious mind is operating all of the time. What's your conscious mind? Your conscious mind is what you're paying attention to. So I'm looking at Christy's face and seeing her beautiful eyes. And, I'm paying attention to what we're talking about right here. Now, there could be somebody walking up my stairs behind me. I'm not conscious of that because I'm paying attention to this. And there's also a thing called our reticular activating system, which filters all of the stimuli that we're exposed to through our brain stem, and it points out what we're paying attention to. Okay. So we have to understand the fundamentals of how the mind works first before we can dig into seeing how we might have triggers to certain responses or things in our environment that cause us to have an emotional reaction. So let's go there a little bit. There's a law called the law of cause and effect, and it says that your thoughts create your feelings, which is very true. We have the supercomputer that has electrical signals it's sending into our central nervous system. Well, those electrical signals create neurotransmitters, which then send hormones and chemicals into our central nervous system, which create feelings. Okay, so our thoughts create the feelings. What are feelings? Emotions, right? What's emotion? It's energy in motion, or it can be stuck energy. I like to look at it this way because I think everything's energy. So your thoughts create your feelings. Your feelings will then create your actions and or reactions. And this is where we want to start to pay attention. Okay. So let's pay attention to our reactions in life, where we might react in a certain way and then feel bad about it or think about it later, because this is something that we probably want to change, because those actions or reactions cause your results.
Yeah.
So if you want to shift your results in any area of life, where do you have to go? Back to your way of thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. It all stems from self-awareness. You have to go back to that place that's telling you, well, creating the programming.
Yes. And the key, like you said, is awareness. What's awareness? Awareness is noticing my way of thinking and feeling. So it's almost like you can become an observer of yourself.
Right.
But the key is in the present moment, because that's the only time that's really real.
Yeah.
The present is the present, right? So understanding how the brain operates and how this way of thinking, feeling, acting gives us our results, that's when we can take a step back and say, okay, do I have any unconscious behavior patterns that are negatively affecting my results in life? So and that's where we want to get curious.
Yeah. Can you give some examples of kind of what that is? I mean, when you're doing your coaching and in your book, and when you're talking to people about these types of things, like, it's one thing to be like, neurotransmitters and unconscious and, like all of these, big words, but it's another thing to be like, okay, how is this applicable to me? What are some like common subconscious behaviors and things that people do that keep them from really functioning at a high level and really like an authentic place, right? Because authenticity comes from who you actually are, not what the world has said that you are. So what are some of those examples?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a situation that's going to trigger an emotional response in you. That emotional response might have you shut down. You feel like somebody is treating you wrong, so you shut down or you remove yourself from the situation. You could have a sense of feeling a loss of control or feeling helpless, being excluded or ignored, disapproval or criticism. I use stories of my own life to teach this system in my book. So I'll give you, for instance, of some of my unconscious behavior patterns that I've recognized and I've dealt with. So through my childhood and adolescence, I learned how to build walls around my heart. We build up these defense mechanisms because we've had certain emotional trauma and we don't want to experience that trauma, right?
Yeah.
So, fear of getting your heart broken. So I keep people away. You keep people at an arm's length, right?
Right.
I was single for like 7 years and I told people to just lose my phone number. Like the first red flag, my unconscious behavior pattern is peace out.
Yeah.
I'm out. You don't even have a shot to try again. Right. Yeah. But then I had to get curious and say, okay, well, maybe I'm contributing to these results because I'm still single and nobody's perfect. Right. So you can't expect perfection. Right. But you also have to look and see, how am I contributing to this story as well? And when I started to go within, I realized that I literally push people away, because I'm afraid of getting hurt. I'm afraid of the true love. Even though I'm yearning for love so much, I'm afraid of it. And so unconsciously, I'm pushing people away. Yeah. And so I got into a relationship where I believe I've manifested my soulmate, and we've been together 2 years. We're madly in love. Everything is amazing. But because I'm aware, I notice my own unconscious behavior patterns. And it's like, maybe he says something that triggers me. This is a trigger, right? And my response is, I want to shut down. I won't talk. I'll give him the cold shoulder. All of those things. So these are our behavior patterns that we need to get conscious and curious of, because they're contributing to the results of the situation. And that's the key, is understanding, how is this situation? If I notice my heart's pounding, my stomach's upset, I get shaky or dizzy or something, that's like almost like a feeling of anxiety. So if you start to feel that in a moment, pause and get curious about what just caused you to have that emotional response.
Yes, yes, yes. I love the examples that you just gave, because I think that that's where the specifics come in. When people, when we're like, well, when you have a trigger, you have a reaction, or, like some people will be like, what is that? What does that actually look like? What does that feel like? What does that mean? Like, what am I looking for specifically? That, that stomach, that gut, it's almost like a gut punch.
Yes.
Or like that shaky kind of feeling, or like you want to run away. Those are all very, very good signs of something just happened. And honestly, the thing is that it doesn't even have to be, it could be the way somebody looked at you. It could be a word that they used. It could be an energy that they have that's like not jiving with your energy. It could literally, like, I know that there are times where I wake up in the morning and I have that feeling because of a dream that I've had, right? Like, so it all comes down to being in control of those emotions and recognizing what they are. And, is that a me thing? Am I overreacting about something that they said? Or is that a red flag going off that is telling me I need to protect myself, right? And I think that a lot of times people assume that it's an outer thing, like,
right.
I don't want to participate, like you were doing with your relationships, right? It's like, push everybody away.
Yep.
But when you get real with yourself and you have that self-awareness and you're like, okay, why am I feeling this way? What was that? And here's an example from my life. So years and years ago, it's actually really funny. My husband and I really like to, I think because when I was younger, I was kind of like the good kid in my family. And so everybody just kind of behaved in that way, that I made the good choices, and I didn't really like step outside of the line. And I guess it kind of gave me a perfectionist complex a little bit, And so when I got married, whenever my husband would like doubt something about me or doubt something that I was saying, it always like threw up this like, what the heck,
Right.
And there was a day years and years and years ago that he had said, he had questioned something that I had said or done. And it like got me all upset about it. And I like had to stop myself. And I'm like, why exactly am I upset about this?
Yes.
And the first thing that came to my mind was because I want him to think that I'm perfect, which is so unrealistic. It's unrealistic for us to think that we're perfect, or like in your case, for us to put that burden on somebody else and expect them to be perfect.
Exactly.
So when we can have that kind of meeting of the minds a little bit, like our subconscious mind and our conscious mind, and like bring that together and be like, okay, like let's give a little grace here and a little grace there, and bring it full circle. So I love that you gave examples of exactly how that looks. So okay, when we go into, so I mean, you talked about this a little bit in the beginning, when I was asking you about the biggest lie that people tell themselves. How do you actually reprogram your mind though? I mean, if this is something you're talking about in your 30s or 40s, you've had all of these things like writing into your system for decades. How do you actually, even if you can become aware of it, how do you actually
do it?
Set a new neurotransmission to be able to go, create a new pathway?
Yep. So I teach a 7-step life timeline system of transformation, because it's a system. You can't just reprogram your mind overnight. You have these faulty programs running for 30 years, and it's just, it's a riverbed, right? So you have to remove the riverbed. So step 1 is to tag it. That's tag my unconscious behavior patterns. This is something I notice I do and I want to change it. Okay. Step 2 is remember. Your life timeline is from 0 until today, from birth until today. So go back and remember the first time you observed this way of thinking, feeling, or acting, this type of behavior, because that is its inception point into your subconscious mind. That's your subconscious computer program. So I'm going to remember it. And then step 3 is to feel it. See, this is what we don't get, is everything's energy. And even though you have these feelings, a lot of us have suppressed these emotions,
Right.
and the emotional response that we should have probably had if we knew how to actually process our emotions correctly, it wouldn't be repeating for us. So we need to remember and feel those memories and emotions from back then. Step 4 is to flip it. So we tend to walk through life like this and we only see our own perspective, but we don't take off the blinders to see it from someone else's perspective. And if we could do that, we might see it from such a different viewpoint, and it just that can shift your way of looking at it. So we need to flip the script and say, okay, how can I view this from a different perspective? Look for the silver lining. What am I missing in my humanness? Okay. Step 5 is to release it. This is key. You have to release those emotions from the past, from your energy body, or they will continue to follow you through life. It's kind of like people say, I feel like I have a dark cloud following me around. It's energy. That energy needs to be released. Okay. So that's one of the most important steps. You have to do those 5 things before you can even reprogram your mind. You got to get it out. And then step 6 is to reprogram. What's reprogram mean? It means create a new thinking system. Those thoughts that create your feelings, that create your actions, that create your results. You got to go back and start thinking things that I am loved. You know, if you're looking for love, you have to be love.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. So we have to start to reprogram our mind to think in the ways that are going to serve us, our family, our results. And every time that we notice that we are not in alignment with what it is we want, we have to pause and repattern our way of thinking in the moment. Okay, so this is, you're rewriting your computer program. So the key is awareness. It's being aware so that you can shift that way of thinking, reprogram. What you do is create a vision. You have to be very, very specific with what it is you want to manifest or what you want to be, see, have, or do. Specific in, I like to say you got to 5 sense it. Okay, you got to see it, feel it, hear it, taste it, smell it, all of it. So I always do a vision 3 years from now, and I'm living my vision from before. Like, I visioned meeting the man of my dreams, my soulmate. We've been in a relationship for 2 years. It's worked. I visioned the house and the office I'm sitting in right here because I got very, very specific with the universe. That's key. Step 7 is to resonate. This is, people will talk about the law of attraction, right? And everybody does these vision boards, but there's so much more to that. When you vision and reprogram your mind, you have to do it every day. Okay. So you have to think it, you got to write it down, you got to speak it. So I would speak my vision every single day, multiple times a day. If I'm in the shower, if I'm driving in the car, I'm speaking my vision. And I always start with, I am so happy and grateful. You have to have a burning desire, grateful expectation, and belief. You cannot doubt it, because the doubt kills it in the universe. There's universal laws. This is like the stuff that just lights me up, because I never knew this before I was like 30, and I wish that I would have, because my life could be so differently. However, I'm here for a reason, because that's why we're here. So you have to be very specific, but resonate the energy of that which you're trying to be. So I say, I'm going to be interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. I can be interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. I will be interviewed, and I am being interviewed. And I'm resonating that energy now, because I don't doubt it. I know what I have to say and do in this world is big. And I'm going to connect with as many people that can help us together transform this world, to make it more positive, to help people overcome their faulty programs, because they've been passed down from generation to generation, and we just pass them on down to our kids. Like, I notice things even my mom does that I do, that I see her do, and then I'm like, oh gosh, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm aware, because I look
Right.
at life
Right.
through a different lens. So those are kind of the 7 steps. And then I say you have to rinse and repeat, because it takes 21 days to break a habit, 90 days to reprogram a new way of thinking. But this is daily work. I have been doing it on myself for 4 years straight now, like every single day. And I'll never stop doing it ever a day in my life until I'm not here anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what I coach my clients. Like, this is transformation, and it's daily, but it gets easier. It's like going to the gym, you build the reps. It gets easier the more and more you do it. And then you'll see those programs start to go
Right.
away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I started really that kind of transformational journey. Gosh, it was probably back in 2006 or 7. It was a long time ago when I really became aware that I could control my mind. I could control the outcome. And there were a couple of things that you had talked about in there that I kind of want to touch on really quick. And that was the releasing aspect of it. And then, well, we'll go there first. So just really quick, how do you, I mean, we touch on releasing when you are identifying and you know what it is and you're, trying to flip it and then you want to release it. How people are going to hear that and say, how do you release?
Yep.
So how do you recommend that?
I have a whole chapter in my book about releasing repressed emotions, because it is big. Number 1, hypnotherapy is a great way. I have a hypnotherapist that I've been to several times, and they take you into like a meditative state where you're still awake, but you're in a meditative state, which allows you to access more of your subconscious mind.
Mhm.
And they'll ask you questions, and it's amazing during those sessions what comes up for me. I didn't even know still bothered me, but I'll go there in my subconscious mind, like I'm there, 20 years ago, and telling her these stories and crying about what's happening. And then we heal that person, but we heal it from this present moment, right? And so we're healing that idea and that energy of that person back then. We're healing it now. And when you do that work, it no longer comes up. It's almost like that energy has been gone. It's been released. So that's one way. Journaling is another way. Writing so that you can see your feelings. Writing it down gives it a different perspective. Talk therapy. There's ways to talk with somebody and express these emotions so that you can shift your perspective and get to see it from a different side. There's meditation, mindfulness. There's you can actually write it and then burn it. You can burn the stuff. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. But the key is to go back into your subconscious and really get those repressed emotions out. You got to feel them. I mean, and that's the key is, we try not to cry or we try not to get angry, but sometimes we need to cry because it's an emotional detoxification. And that's even one of the steps in there is crying.
I like the journaling aspect of it. And I think that is the kind of just like the getting quiet with yourself and doing the journaling, because that empowers everybody to be able to do it on their own. There is definitely benefit in seeking outside help if that's something that you can do, but I don't want anybody to think that they have to do that they can't do it on their own, because there is a way that you can just look at what it is that you're feeling and trying to understand it and then release it. And I think that one thing too is that a lot of the stuff from our childhood is something that, you talk about the crying it out aspect of it. And there is definitely a part of that, I feel like, for some emotions. And then I think that some emotions, we just need to look at it with an adult mind and be like, what they said or that belief that was created based off that thing that happened, it isn't even actually like a true thing. Like that whole scenario was a lie.
Right.
And I recognize, I mean, you could cry for, I guess, the lost time and the length of time you've been carrying that baggage around, but to just shine a light on it for what it is, I feel like a lot of times helps to release that, to be like, this was not my doing. I was a child. That was something that they did. They were an adult. They should have known better. And maybe they were doing the best that they could, but I don't have to carry that around. I don't have to keep my 5-year-old self in a cage, right? That we can just,
Forgiveness.
yeah, we can just let it go.
Forgiveness frees you. You know, it's like a jailer having a jailee. And as long as you're jailer, you know, having this person in jail,
Yeah,
you're imprisoning yourself too. And we
right.
just carry this stuff with us, but that's it, is we have to let go of it. And that's a lot times easier said than done, but there's a way. You know, you have to have the will to do it first, but then working through it. Even if you're talking to your best friend, sometimes we have to talk. It's expressing those thoughts and feelings helps us get that out.
Yeah,
And having a support system, or, you know, there's people that have gone through trauma that do need support in rekindling these past emotions and energies. And I fully recommend somebody get support from that perspective, because it's not easy to do it alone. You can do it alone 100%,
sure.
but there's ways and avenues that you can do it easier than trying to do it alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm a huge proponent of coaching and being able to seek outside help. But I also want to empower people in their own abilities to recognize and identify and not always feel like the only way to fix themselves is through somebody else, right?
Right.
So there's that kind of balance in between them, where you have to first recognize your own behaviors and recognize the things that you want to improve, and recognize your own patterns and all of those things that you had talked about, and get to a point where you recognize that you're ready to release it, because hiring somebody isn't going to help you do anything unless you're at that point where you're ready to get real about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Awesome. Carrie, that was a lot of really great information. And I love your 7 steps. Obviously, like you said, this is a journey. It isn't something that you're just going to be able to be like, okay, I don't like this thought anymore. I'm just going to, like it does. It takes time. And it is true. It takes 21 days to form a new habit. And that has to be replaced with good things, right? Like you can't just say, oh, I have all these bad thoughts about myself, and then now I'm just going to ignore them. You have to replace them with something good and productive, and so it is important in that way. So I'm definitely recommending people get the book Behind the Screen. Is it on Amazon? They can just get it, or
It
from
is
your
on
website?
Amazon. This is what it looks like.
Perfect. I love it. Perfect. And then where else can they find you online?
You can go to my website. It's carrie-schmidt.com, CARRIE-SCHMIDT. And you can connect with me on all social media links, and even schedule a complimentary strategy session if you're interested in working with me further.
Awesome. Okay. I will make sure to include that in the YouTube description and the show notes and get all of that information out there. Thank you so much for showing up today and being you. I'm just really grateful. It's like you said earlier that you wish you would have known this information before, but life has a way of giving us the information when we need it most. And I love that you've taken the growth strategies that you have incorporated in your own life and that you're sharing that message with the world. There's a lot of benefit that comes from us putting ourselves out there in that way and being a, kind of a service to everybody around us. So kudos to you on showing up.
Thank you. And thank you to you as well for showing up and providing a platform for more people to get access to this information. Yeah. So it takes a village.
It does. It does. And I love being part of this village. So thank you so much. We'll catch up with you later.
Thank you.